All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful tool for unlocking new ideas and solving some seriously tough problems, the Synectics model.
You know that feeling, right? We've all been there. You're staring at a blank page or maybe a tough challenge at work, and your brain just hits a wall. You feel like you're just circling the same old ideas over and over, and you're getting absolutely nowhere.
So what's the way out of that rut? Well, the core idea behind Synectics is beautifully counterintuitive. It's not about trying to force some logical step-by-step solution. It's about deliberately taking something you know really well and making it feel completely alien and new. So here's our game plan. We'll start with what the model is, then walk through the 6 key steps. After that, we'll see it in action with a really cool example, and finally, we'll unpack why this whole thing works so well. Let's jump in.
All right, first things first, what exactly is Synectics? Let's break down its foundation. You know, the name itself gives us a huge clue. It comes from a Greek term that basically means joining together things that seem totally different and unrelated. And that, right there, is the heart of the whole process, finding amazing new insights by connecting things you'd never, ever think to connect.
And check out this quote from its creator, William Gordon. He's telling us that true creative breakthroughs, well, they don't come from just pure logic. They come from tapping into the emotional, the messy, the non-rational parts of our brain. You know, the parts that dream and feel and make these incredible, unexpected leaps. So Synectics gives us a clear path to do exactly that. It's a system, a structured process, believe it or not, that uses metaphors and analogies as tools to deliberately pull us away from our logical, comfortable thinking and push us into a much more playful and imaginative headspace.
Okay, now for the process itself. We're going to walk through the 6 steps that are really the engine of the Synectics model. This is the journey into making the familiar strange.
Step 1, describe the topic. This is pretty much what it sounds like. You take your problem and just describe it. Think of it like a brain dump. The key here is zero judgment. You just list any and every word or phrase that pops into your head. The goal is just to get it all out on the table.
Step 2 is where it starts to get fun. You create direct analogies. You take that list of descriptions you just made, and you compare your problem to something from a completely unrelated category. A plant, an animal, a machine, anything goes. How is your budget problem like a rusty car? Seriously, the weirder the comparison, the better.
Now the process takes a really interesting turn. You pick one of those analogies, and for step 3, you become it. This is called a personal analogy. You have to describe what it feels like to be that thing. What's it like to be an old oak tree in a swamp? This step is all about empathy, and it forces a radical shift in your perspective.
The next step is absolutely crucial. From that list of feelings you just described, you identify compressed conflicts. These are pairs of words that seem to fight each other, like frightened and secure or helpless and powerful. This creative tension, this paradox, is the real engine of the whole process.
So what do you do with that conflict? Well, for step 5, you use it to create another direct analogy. If your conflict is, say, trapped but independent, you might ask your group, okay, what animal is both trapped and independent? Maybe you get answers like a tiger in a zoo or a powerful dog on a leash.
And finally, after this whole strange journey, step 6 brings it all back home. You return to where you started. You take that final analogy, the dog on the leash, and you use it to look at your original problem with completely fresh eyes. How is our project like that dog? And just like that, the new imagery breaks all the old patterns and sparks brand new insights.
I know this all might sound a little abstract, a little out there. So let's walk through a real-world scenario to make it concrete. A teacher wanted her class to think about the Salem witch trials in a new way, so their starting topic was simply witches.
So for step 1, the class just brainstormed everything that came to mind for the word witch. And as you'd probably expect, they listed all the typical descriptions. Ugly, green skin, pointy hats, flying on brooms. You know, a very familiar, almost cartoonish starting point.
Next, for steps 2 and 3, the teacher asked for a direct analogy from the world of plants. The class chose an old oak tree in a swamp. Then they did the personal analogy, describing what it feels like to be that tree. And this produced a fascinating list of feelings: lonely and powerful, trapped but also peaceful and needed.
From that list of feelings, the class looked for a compressed conflict. They debated a few options, but the one that really resonated was the tension between feeling trapped and feeling independent.
I mean, just think about that for a second. It's a very potent combination.
Now, using that conflict, the teacher asked for a new analogy, this time from the animal kingdom. What animal is both trapped and independent? They came up with some great ideas, but the one they ultimately chose was an otter in a trap.
And this brings us to the final, powerful step. The teacher posed this one question to the class. And suddenly, they weren't talking about green skin and pointy hats anymore. They were exploring themes of being caught, misunderstood, and fighting for survival against something you just can't escape. It became a much, much deeper conversation.
This table lays out the entire journey we just took. You can see the step-by-step progression so clearly, moving from the simple, familiar idea of witches all the way to the much richer, more complex metaphor of an otter in a trap. Each step was absolutely essential to bridge that gap. So why does this seemingly strange process work so well? Let's look at the power behind this whole structured approach to creativity.
Well, the benefits are pretty significant. Because it's a group activity, it naturally gets people talking and working together. More importantly, it helps us build entirely new ways of thinking, which is a total game changer for everything from creative writing to product design. Oh, and here's a fascinating side effect. Studies actually show that using Synectics increases how well you remember information because you're connecting it to such vivid emotional imagery.
So if there's one key takeaway, it's this. Synectics provides a repeatable process to break out of those mental ruts and see the world in a new light. It proves that creativity isn't just some random flash of insight, it's a skill that you can actually practice and develop. Which leaves us with just one question: what familiar problem in your own life is ready to be made strange?